I just wanted to give you a little heads up about this episode. First of all, it's longer than all of our other episodes, but it's because there's 3 separate days of recording. One was several months ago when I just interviewed Dr. Higgins about her Wired Adoption program, which my son then tried. So the second big part is about us getting the results from his test. And then later on, 7 weeks after he started the protocol, we have a little coda where Joey talks about how he's doing today. And I also wanted to let you know that the second and third parts are on YouTube if you'd like to watch the video of those. Or you can just listen. You'll get enough out of it by just listening, but you'll be able to see the charts and you'll be able to see Joey's face and his transformation from part 2 to part 3 if you watch the video on YouTube. Look below for the YouTube address or just go find Unraveling Adoption on YouTube. Thank you so much. Here's the episode. Welcome to this episode of Unraveling Adoption, an intentional space to delve into adoption's complexities together. I'm Beth Syverson, an adoptive mom of a wise and talented 19-year-old son, Joey, who has been struggling with addiction for the last 6 years. I'm walking beside him while working on my own personal growth and healing. We are committed to helping anyone touched by adoption, and we want to help the general public understand adoption's complexities better too. You've probably heard me talk about the link between adoption and addiction. Adult adoptees are 43% more likely to have a substance use disorder in their lifetime than their non-adopted peers. Well, today's guest, Dr. Evelyn Higgins, has made it her mission to help our addicted loved ones. And her family has been touched by adoption as well. She gets this stuff. Dr. Higgins is the CEO and founder of a company called Wired Adoption. She is an internationally recognized expert in addiction and has immersed herself in the science of addiction recovery. She has a resume a mile long, including a Harvard education and 34 years in clinical practice as an integrative medicine doctor with specialties in addictionology and pain management. Her brainchild, Wired Adoption, works with individuals struggling with addiction as well as treatment centers and correctional facilities. Clients submit samples of saliva, cheek cells, and urine, and her company creates a 31-page gene mapping report, which helps people understand their own unique biology as it relates to addiction and mental health. They are then given an individualized biochemical pathway support plan to guide their healing. I first heard Dr. Higgins on Heather Ross's podcast, Living with Your Child's Addiction, which I highly recommend. And I was so enthralled by what she shared that Joey is now a client of Wired Adoption. At the time of this recording, we're waiting for his test kit to come in. And I'm very hopeful for what the test will show, especially since Joey knows nothing about his birth family. Well, welcome to Unraveling Adoption, Dr. Higgins. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure, Beth. Thank you for having me as a guest.
Yes. I've heard you on several podcasts and talking about this addiction piece, of course, because that's your whole company is about addiction. But I think this is the first podcast that's centered around adoption. And what is your relationship to adoption?
Sure. Great question. So a year after my daughter was born, my husband and I found out that he was adopted. Interestingly enough, the week before we got married, I asked him if he was adopted.
Oh, really?
My gut was saying, none of this makes sense. Because there was this tiptoeing, there was this running away by his side. And it was like, I just said to him, I go, are you adopted?
Oh, funny.
And he's like, why are you asking me that? I said, because none of this adds up.
Oh, wow.
I said, your parents are, and named his mom and dad. I said, those are the people that raised you. But if there's other people in your life that can add to your life, hey, it could be great. We'll even, invite them to the wedding.
Yeah.
Because there was always this heaviness to him. And as we were asking questions, it was just this closed door. So ironic that the week before we get married, I asked that question. I'm told no. I'm told with bad words. No.
Yeah.
How dare you, blah, 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 say that.
No.
Okay. So then we get married. My daughter is born 2+ years after that. When she's a little bit over 1, I have his uncle who we didn't have a regular ongoing, telephone conversation. He lived in a different area of the country, but, a nice man. It wasn't that there was anything wrong. It was just not an ongoing thing. He calls me out of the blue and tells me, all right, there's something you need to know. And you should have known this the whole time. Actually, at your wedding, his parents were fighting over, do they tell or do they not tell?
Oh my God.
This became so much bigger than it needed to be.
Wow.
It didn't need to be all that.
Yeah.
right? And, the story goes on and on. So now I'm already seeing this behavior in my husband, and I'm saying, whoa, okay, I know zero health history. I know zero family history.
Yeah.
I do what I do for a living. I'm not an ignorant person hey, that doesn't matter. It does matter. We need to know what we're walking into, because if we know, much like what we're going to get into when we talk about the labs, but if we know, we can then mitigate so much of it.
Yeah.
But if we make believe it doesn't exist, who knows? So that became my mission of, okay, what do I need to know?
Mm-hmm.
What does my daughter need to know as she moves through her life? And ironically enough, my husband died very early in his life, in his early 40s.
So sorry.
And that was kind of the end of it.
Wow.
And the story just closed. And the most ironic part is that the week before we're getting married, I say, "Are you adopted?" And I knew him from childhood.
Wow.
Yeah. It wasn't like, I met him the day before and, hey, let's get married, and
Wow,
knew the family.
history.
Yeah. Knew the family. And how ironic that I asked that. And I was told, no.
So much defensiveness. And that's the dangers of those secrets and lies. I've done a couple episodes recently about those secrets and lies. They're literally deadly. It's terrible.
They are. We're as sick as our secrets, that saying. And there shouldn't be any shame to it.
Yeah, it shouldn't be any shame, any direction around, right?
Right.
For the child, for the parents, for the birth parents.
Exactly.
It's just how things rolled, and just honesty is the best, for sure.
Right.
Well, that's very, very interesting to be married to a late discovery adoptee and how that impacts your child. Mm-hmm. So half of your child's genes are just completely unknown. Did he ever get in reunion? Did he ever find out who his birth parents were? Or
we started going down that road together. It was a closed adoption, got a little bit of information, and that kind of just ended.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know he died very young, which is very sad. Had you figured out this protocol yet for this testing, or?
No, I hadn't. Nope.
Okay. I was wondering if he got to take it.
No, that was decades ago.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not a geneticist,
correct,
or maybe you are now. Do you consider yourself a geneticist?
No.
Or no? So you're an addictionologist,
right?
And do you hire who does this gene testing? I don't understand that world at all.
How we created what we created?
Yeah. How do you know how to do that?
Sure. We have advisors who are neuroscientists, geneticists.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you work with them, and you're kind of the big picture person. Like, how does all this impact an actual human being?
Exactly.
And then you get people that understand how to look at DNA. I don't even know what that looks like.
Sure.
Is that under a microscope? I don't even know.
No, it's through technological machines, really, that allow us. The Human Genome Project was mapped out in 2003.
Okay. So it's based on that.
So that's when the technology to be able to map these things was brought about. And then it evolved. In 2008, we started looking at what the 1,000 most important genes for diseases and conditions. Mm-hmm. And it's evolved and evolved and evolved to where we are today.
Wow. And does that 43% higher prevalence of addiction for adoptees surprise you at all?
Not at all.
Is that,
Not
do you see a lot of adopted people in your practice?
Yes. It's really very interesting. Somebody will be going through the whole background, and then there'll come this little piece, I'm adopted, or my child is adopted. And it's like, not shocking.
Yeah. Because, especially if they're a closed adoption or intercountry adoption, like my son's, you got nothing.
Right.
We have no idea.
Right.
I know that his birth mother was 16. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I feel like if I had known that statistic, 43% higher prevalence of addiction, I would have been paying much closer attention when he was, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I hope I would have paid more attention. As it was, I didn't know there was any difference. I was like, well, he's just part of our family, whatever, it's all the same. Mm-hmm. And I was so clueless. So now that's one of the reasons I'm talking about addiction and adoption so much on the pod. And I do speaking and stuff like that to really help other adoptive parents, maybe with younger kids, to go, okay, wake up.
Right.
Wake up, people, 43% higher chance.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about the test. Joey's going to start spitting in a tube here pretty soon when he gets the thing in the mail. What answers will you be able to give him? Like, not the answers, but what types of answers? What kind of information will he get out of this test?
Sure. So we look at 85 different biomarkers. The first part of it in the neuroscience looks at neurotransmitters or brain chemicals and their interaction with our hormones, from our stress hormones to our sex hormones, and how those all interact. And we get a picture objectively of what you see on the outside but the physiological reasons of where it's stemming from. Then the remainder of the 67 genes of the total 85 look at genetic SNPs, or single nucleotide polymorphisms. That polymorphism, all it means is that there's an error in the genetic coding.
Okay.
And that error creates what we call aberrant behavior. Aberrant behavior, all that means is things like risk-taking, impulse control, addiction, anxiety, depression. So we're going to be able to see all of where we have problematic areas within Joey for him and only him.
Yeah, that's amazing. So is there a little place on your test that says, oh, ADHD is right there? Or is it more like symptomatic?
No. There'd be measurements of, okay, clinical correlation to this is ADHD. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And so it's diagnostic, but based on data and not like, oh, doctor, I'm feeling a little bit sad right now.
Right. What we'd call objective information, right? So when most people are diagnosed, and still being in 2023, that we still do this is mind-blowing when there's so much technology available. Yeah. But most people are diagnosed by, you and I, Beth, are having a conversation and you're like, yeah, I don't know. I just don't have that zest. I really don't feel like going to Joey's concert or his game. I used to like going to those things. I don't really anymore. Like, oh, okay, I think you're depressed. Here, take this. We're still diagnosing that way. Yeah. What if you and I don't have the same vocabulary words with the same meanings? We could end up in a different place.
Yeah.
And while we're on this topic of, I use that depression because there's so many SSRI drugs or antidepressants out there that most people are familiar with that. And they'll say, well, it's depression. You don't have enough serotonin. So let's put you on this SSRI drug. But depression can have to do with serotonin, with dopamine, with epinephrine, with norepinephrine, with one of those, two of those, three of those, four of those. We don't know.
Okay. So it's not just serotonin.
Unless we do labs.
And people like me end up on SSRIs for decades. I don't think that's the way it was supposed to be.
Correct. That's where I was going to go with that. And then we see people that have been on an SSRI literally for decades, which they were never meant to be. They were meant to be for an acute situation, not a chronic situation. And they have no serotonin anyway. So for the past 20 years, you've been taking this. In reality, your kidneys, your liver, your bladder, they're all affected by it. And if it had a positive end result, well, that would be worthwhile.
Yeah.
But when it doesn't, it's like, why did we just do that?
Yeah. 20 years of all these side effects and it seems like just a crapshoot.
Exactly. It is. It's throwing a dart, hoping you land somewhere close.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I had an appointment with my psychiatrist, the one that keeps shelling me out my SSRI. And I told him about Wired for Addiction. I said, have you heard of it? And he said, no, I've heard of these things before though. And my psychiatrist is not great. I've had trouble with him before, but he just fills my prescription. I just move on. But he said, oh, but I don't think they're that reliable. And I just really trust personal histories better.
Wow.
I'm like, well, okay, but my son doesn't have a personal history because he's adopted and we have no idea. He goes, well, then I just take whatever is going on for him. I think that's much more reliable than these tests. I'm like, okay, he's trying to save his job, right? He's threatened by this data for his job.
Right. And threatened because he is not up on that. That may not be where his interest lies. So he has no current information as to what's available.
Right. He sounded very ignorant and then he's trying to defend himself. But I'm like, okay, so that's what we're fighting against, right? That kind of, but we've always done it this way.
Right. And typically when there is pushback, it's because the person on the other end doesn't really understand. And instead of saying, you know what, that's not my area of expertise, but I'm open. Let's look at this. I'll learn what I can. That's your minority, right?
Yeah.
The most are like, no good.
Yeah.
And
it's that ego.
We should be using technology. And here's what I talk about in my TED Talk is that other areas of healthcare don't rely on, maybe you're having a heart attack. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're diabetic. Maybe you're not. We don't do that. We use technology.
Yeah. They don't say, let's talk about your symptoms. Tell me what that feels like. No, They take a blood test.
Exactly.
Right?
You go to the diagnostics because then you can confirm.
Yeah.
You look at objective information.
Why is mental health so different?
That's stigma.
And addiction is part of mental health, right?
Yes. It's still because we have this stigma. We have this moral compass failing mentality, which has nothing to do with it. It is a disease. And it's kind of like, well, you know what? You guys got yourself there. You can get yourself out because you're a bad person.
Yeah.
So you figure it out. Instead of it's a disease, we need to figure this out together, and we need to use technology to advance to where we are.
Yes. It makes so much sense. And the first time I heard you talking like this with Heather, I was like, well, duh, why isn't everyone doing this? But I'm just wrapped up in this whole system too. That's all I've known is like, okay, let's try this rehab, try this talk therapy, try this, blah, 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 blah. And none of it's helped Joey, really. Very little of it has helped. And just tons of stigma, which really don't help. Someone that's adopted and is already dealing with a core level of shame and not wantedness, to put shame of addiction on top of that really is terrible. So in better news, I've asked Joey's psychologist and she said, oh my gosh, yes, you should do that. Absolutely. And a couple of other people I know in healthcare are like, oh my word, I didn't know that was available. That's amazing. So I'm very excited and hopeful and kind of realistic because Joey's having a rough time. Right now, he's struggling with cannabis mainly is his main drug. And we run across people all the time like, whatever, it's just cannabis. Oh my God. Cannabis is extremely potent right now. Right. Joey uses like 98% THC materials and uses a ton of it every day. And I don't know the last time he's really been, well, because it takes a month for cannabis to get out of your system. He's just kind of continually high. He uses so much of it. So it's very damaging to his brain and to his lifestyle. Absolutely. It's really, really damaging. Absolutely. So he's been struggling with this. And I know that he's going to take this test and he's going to get these answers, but I'm not expecting the test to all of a sudden go, okay, I guess I'll quit now. So, but we'll find out because we're going to find out. We're going to talk to Joey when he gets his test done, find out what it says. But what is your experience with other people who've taken this test that have struggled with addiction? What do people do with the information? Sure. Do they like quit that same day or?
Great question.
Is it a process?
First off, usually there is a sigh of relief because they see on paper their entire clinical picture that they've been feeling like no one understood their whole life. And they could not tell me any of it. We could not have a discussion. And I'd look at the labs and say, so this, and they say, that is exactly how I feel every day.
Wow.
So there's a sigh of relief. Oftentimes there's actually tears. Okay. And I say this in air quotes because we're on a podcast, right? But they'll say, I'm not crazy. No, you're not. We have to work on some of these pathways. Yeah. So there's that part of it. And then to the family, oftentimes there's a, whoa, okay, I get it now.
Oh, this isn't not just trying to make me
out. Right. Yeah. This isn't giving me a hard time. Yeah. This isn't all these other things that people can think. It's, wow, this is actually part of his physiology as he is right now. And this makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Now, can you help me understand a little bit about epigenetics? So how much of what Joey's genes are expressing is due to his adoption or due to his birth parents, whatever problems they had? Like if his birth parents struggled with addiction, is that going to show up in Joey's DNA?
Sure. So both of those things would be true, right? It's multi-layered. And that's what makes addiction such a complex disease because it's a biopsychosocial disease. So it's all of those pieces to it. So Joey's parents will bring their genes to the table, if you will. Right. So we'll see that family tree there, that background on what's passed down genetically. And then we now know that trauma changes someone's physiology. So it's both of those things.
And can you look at it and go, this is from trauma and this is from birth parents, or is it?
So with the epigenetics portion of it, we'd be able to say, okay, we have a heterozygous result here, a homozygous result here. There's an error encoding here. We're seeing this behavior being displayed or we're not. Right. But that's what's underlying. So that's the whole epigenetics portion of things. Someone can say, I never saw this behavior until my child turned 18. Never saw it. Well, what stressors were in your child's life at 18 that allowed those symptoms to express themselves? That's the epigenetic part.
Okay. So not everybody will turn on those genes. It's not necessary that those genes get turned on, but something stressful, some major life transition or something could flip that switch. And then you're dealing with this error encoding. Is that what you're calling it?
Yep.
Error encoding. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, How is this test different than 23andMe?
So 23andMe is what we'd call a recreational lab test. Ours is a clinical lab test. It takes a much deeper dive, not even comparison.
Okay.
And we're looking at specific areas that we want to see.
Okay.
Not just a global picture.
Yeah. What if you're an adoptee and don't struggle with addiction?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your company's called Wired for Addiction, but would this test be helpful even if addiction wasn't even on your plate right now?
Sure. And we also have a lot of mental health clients that'll say, addiction isn't really my thing, but anxiety, depression, those kind of things. And, for someone to reach the stage of addiction, typically we're looking at an undiagnosed condition, a diagnosed condition not being treated properly, or a trauma, and or all of them or two of them. And that's where they arrive. So for so many people, and I mean now post-COVID, the numbers are so much greater with anxiety and depression, that most addictions start with someone trying to self-medicate.
Yeah, for sure.
And not even understanding that's what they're doing. They're really even too young to understand that's what they're doing, but they know that initially it feels good.
Yeah. Joey smoked weed the first time in science class. Wow. And he told me, yeah, Mom, that first time I was hooked. He knew that first time it numbed out his deep, deep pain that he couldn't put a finger on at that time. He was like 13, but he's like, yep, that worked. Exactly. That was great. Exactly. And, a lot of kids will experiment and go, okay, well, that was fun for a party. And then they just like, whatever. But my kid, nope. Yep. It flipped that switch, I think I don't know if that's how you would call it, but it was the missing puzzle piece for him. And of course it is, because he had so much pain. I didn't understand it at all. I wasn't talking to him about his adoption and, oh my goodness, that must be so painful. I didn't know. I was like, I was oblivious. So he found something that could take care of it. So why not?
Exactly.
Why wouldn't you when you're 13?
Exactly. And most of the people that I talk to can remember a gentleman with alcohol. He's like, I remember at 4 years old. Sitting on the beach with my dad. My dad said, I'm going to go into the water, hold my beer. He said, I remember taking that and saying, I like this.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. And when I talk to kids after we go over their report, I'm like, so here's the deal. You're at an age where your friends are going to say, hey, cool story. This is what we're going to do after school. We're going to go try this. And, everybody tries it. And you're like, whoa, that was good. Next day, you're like, let's do it again. The other kid's like, no, we're going to do something else. That wasn't that great. And you're like, no, it really was great, because to you, boom.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Fireworks. Exactly. Yeah. Fireworks went off in his head.
Exactly.
He's told me that his friends are like, Joey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like Joey goes way farther than anybody else. Right. It scares people, I'm pretty sure. It scares me. That's for sure. Yeah. It's fascinating. So how old can you be to take this test?
So the youngest we've had is 2.
Wow.
The oldest we've had is either 96 or 98.
Really?
But 2 years old is the youngest. And a parent came to us. This child was already on SSRI drugs.
Oh, at 2? Do they have RAD or something?
It was just the behavior that the mother's like, I can't handle what I'm seeing. And unbeknownst went to the doctor. Doctor's like, here you go. And sent me videos of her child. And I'm 2 years old, started.
Oof. Oh, that hurts my heart.
Yep. And our brain's not fully formed until somewhere around 27. So when we start making these changes so early.
So what were you, I mean, I know you can't tell us what happened to this 2-year-old, but.
Oh, she's doing great now.
Really?
Yeah. She's 7 years old now, doing fantastic.
So did she have some major depressive disorder that she needed SSRI, or was it something they were misdiagnosing? Or
it was misdiagnosing. It was an adverse reaction to a medication.
Oh.
Body couldn't break it down and metabolize it. So we were seeing these neuropsychiatric behaviors and side effects as a result of that.
And your test was able to figure that out. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yep.
So a 2-year-old's DNA, is that going to be the same as like Joey's age DNA?
Yeah, your DNA is going to be your DNA.
DNA doesn't change.
No. When you're born, here's your cards, play them out.
So you could just have this test done when you're born.
Right. What's going to change is the neuroscience part of it, looking at the neurotransmitters, the hormones, that changes. Okay.
As you go through life and your brain develops based on your environment and whatever.
Exactly. And knowing that as you're growing up, knowing how important it's going to be to have resources and have tools in your toolbox to manage your stress.
Yeah.
And when you feel things changing in you, to be able to articulate that and sit down with somebody and say, okay, I'm starting to feel this. What do we need to do? That's great. That's the power behind this information.
So you gather your tools around you.
Yep.
And we've got lots of tools, but we've just kind of grabbed them. Like, okay, we'll just grab all of the tools. But maybe with this testing, we'll be able to get more specific and get this needle nose pliers over here, this exact one little thing that can fine tune what's going on with Joey. But can you tell in the test if a child, like if a 2-year-old takes this test, could you tell that they're going to have a trouble with addiction if they pick something up? Is there something on that thing that gives you a red flag?
You would know that there's a predisposition, yes.
You can find that?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, a case of an adopted child, parents came to us, was already in trouble in school, moved to several schools already by 6 years old.
Wow.
So came to us, we did a full workup, and she was born neonatal abstinence syndrome. Mom was addicted.
Okay. Yeah. So she had to get off drugs right away.
Yep. She coded 3 times.
Oof.
While still in the hospital. I mean, almost lost this child. So we did our workup. We did everything. We actually even presented this case study for the International Society in Abu Dhabi last year because it was such a great study to see both parts of it, from the neurotransmitters to the genetic portion. And mom was an addict, and we saw all this, and we see it in this child's biomarkers.
Wow.
So this is the power of, okay, what are we going to do? And how are we going to play this out?
Yeah.
But fast forward, at the end of that school year, she got the character award.
Oh.
And, you know, what that did to her. And you think about everybody else in her life. She has 3 other siblings, one of whom is adopted, the other 2 are natural. And their lives change. You're like, thank you, because she's a lot easier to be around in the house.
Oh,
you know?
Siblings often get kind of lost in this whole process when there's a difficult situation. That siblings often get the raw end of the deal there. Yeah. Wow. So I still wish I would have found you when Joey was younger, but whatever. I found you now, and I'm looking forward to finding out whatever Joey has. But I can imagine if I had Joey tested when he was younger, I could have been much more aware, like that 43% statistic.
Right.
Imagine that multiplied many times with all this data specific to Joey.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
The possibilities.
Exactly.
I can just imagine, because I love data, I love science, and I love like, okay, just tell me what to do. And it sounds like this test will tell people what to do. Like I suppose people will still have choice. They can still go, oh, I'll forget it. I don't care. I'm just going to try it anyway. And that might happen with Joey. I don't know.
We all still have free will.
Yeah.
You know, here's the information. This is the best of what we have. Here's the information. This is what we would suggest. You still have free will.
Yeah. So it'll be what it is. But man, I just think for adopted parents, for adoptees at whatever age, especially if you aren't connected with your birth family, if you don't know who they are, if you're having trouble finding them, and you can't help us find our birth parents, right? Because it's not the same types of what you're looking for.
Correct. Right.
Okay. We still have to do 23andMe for that.
Right.
Okay. So, but especially if you don't know your birth family, I mean, this is like a gold mine.
Absolutely.
It's just unbelievable for everybody, really. But I really want to get myself and my wife to take it eventually when we can afford it, because I would love to figure out what's going on with me. Why have I struggled with depression my whole life?
Right.
You know, what is under there? What's going on? I can't wait to go on this path. We'll start with Joey, and then we'll see how it goes.
Well, you bring up that point, Beth, in saying that you've been on SSRIs for decades. One of the genes that we look at will tell us if an SSRI is even going to be effective with your DNA. So you think about that, yourself included.
Yeah.
For people of like, I've been on this for decades. What is it? Just me? I don't want to be better, you know?
Right. You think, oh, geez, I can't figure this out.
You start owning that. And a lot of doctors that don't take the deeper dive will be like, it's on you.
Yeah.
You know, so what does all that do to you emotionally? You know, it's all of it. It's the biopsychosocial. It's all of it. And we can't leave one piece of the pie out.
It makes you feel broken. But if you can find out, oh, I'm not broken. That's just how I was built, and it's not my fault, and it's nobody's fault. And here's some things that I can do.
Right.
I think that's incredible.
And that's a great point too. It's nobody's fault. Sometimes, minority of cases, very slim, but I do see it. People get defensive. My side of the family, your side of the family. And they do that whole thing. Not often, because usually they're people looking to solve problems instead of sit in problems that come to us. Right. But you do see that. And I'm like, guys, everybody comes with something.
Yeah.
You know,
because you can see which side it goes on, huh? Maternal, paternal.
Well, Not necessarily. We say
okay.
like one of the two genes is affected, both of the genes is affected. So then we know yes. But
okay.
more to that is just everybody comes into this world with something.
Sure.
And we have open conversation. If there's cancer in your family, I just want to let you know, there's a lot of XYZ type of cancers in our family. Just want to let you know, as you start your lifestyle habits, you're getting older. There's a lot of cardiac disease. This should be the same thing.
Okay.
We should say there's a lot of mental health issues in our family. There's a lot of addiction in our family. I want you to know that as you go out into the world and start making your own decisions, how they're going to impact you.
Yep. It's much more risky for some people than others
Absolutely.
to pick up whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
People say, I wish I was the person that could have 2 beers. I can't.
Yeah.
And they look at somebody else like, how do you do that? Like it's magic, because it doesn't do the same thing to them.
Yeah, just different biology.
They metabolize it differently, right? There's different biology.
Mm-hmm. Is there any dangers to this besides maybe fights in your family? Is there any downsides to finding out this data?
No, because as I said, you could also say, free will, I really don't care. I'm not going to do anything about it. But no, not at all. I mean, remaining ignorant in a place where potentially it could hurt your health for the rest of your life is up to you.
Definitely. Okay. You get this test done, 31-page report. You sit with the client and go over it, right? Somebody from your office. What do you tell them to do then? Do you say, okay, here you go. Have fun with that?
Oh, great question. So we create a protocol based on your individual labs. We then look at those biochemical pathways and say what needs support where to what dosing. And as a result of that, we create a protocol for your individual labs.
Okay. So pharmaceuticals?
Nutraceuticals, pharmaceuticals, combination of both, just depends on what the labs show.
And what is nutraceuticals?
Nutraceutical is like a pharmaceutical grade of a natural supplement.
Like vitamins?
So not synthetic. It's a nutraceutical grade. It's a pharmaceutical grade. So if you're not picking up something in GNC and here, this is good because my friend told me to take this.
Okay.
It's based on what we're seeing.
Oh, okay. But is it like vitamins, that kind of thing?
Vitamins would be a broad term. I mean, I wouldn't really use the term vitamins, but it's natural. Okay.
Very good. It's not like, what is that thing when you use a teeny tiny bit of things? Homeopathic?
Homeopathic. No.
No. Okay. Something else. Okay. I said never heard of that term before.
Yeah.
Okay. And then besides pharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals, do you tell them make sure and, stay away from drugs, but do you tell them other behavioral things to do?
Yep. Behavioral things, and potentially, depending on what their markers show, that an intermittent fasting may or may not be good for them. So a lot of other parts based on those biomarkers that we see.
Okay. So diet can be involved, sunlight, like vitamin D kind of things.
Yeah, sure.
Like that kind of things.
Yep. Vitamin D is something that we look at.
Because I understand that has a big effect on you if you have a vitamin D deficiency.
Extremely big.
Really?
It's been overlooked for so long.
Okay.
Yeah. With mental health, with cancers. Vitamin D is a very big part of that. So many, over 300 biological pathways are related to it.
Really? And so your test mainly is going to help us with mental health and addiction, but will it tell us, your biomarkers are showing cancer or breast cancer, or does it give you that information? Some
of the inflammatory markers that we look at, yes, would say there's a predisposition towards. So, this is the power of it. So let's change that now.
Yeah. Yeah. Do people ever say, I don't want to find that out?
No, because they're coming to us proactively. We're not forcing somebody to do this.
No, I think it's always better to know.
Absolutely. And then you can still do what you want with it, but I'd rather know.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I know what I'm dealing with. Well, I am very excited. We're going to have part 2 of this conversation with Joey, and we're going to find out what he learned from his test. And I think it'll just be a couple weeks, right?
Yep.
He'll spit in the tube this week, and a couple weeks later, we'll get with you guys and find out what's in the box there.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah. When we had our consultation with Joey and my wife and me and you, I was kind of blown away by Joey's question. Yeah. He said, Joe, do you have any questions for the doctor? And he says, yeah, I'm just nervous. And I said, what are you nervous about? Or you said that, I can't remember. And he says, I'm scared of finding out who I really am. How did that land for you?
I was like, this is obviously a young man who is much more mature in his emotion, because to say that, I'm like, you know what? That is correct. Usually people would not admit to that, but that is so spot on, because if that's your story and that story changes, who do you become?
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot behind that.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll be working on that over the next couple of weeks. And, he's in therapy and stuff, and he will guide him through all that. It'll probably be pretty emotional. Like you said, people cry, and there's probably a lot of realization. So we'll make sure and get him plenty of support around this, and make sure he feels taken care of and heard and all that. But
I'm sure you will, and he will, because the fact that you telling me that he was the one who wanted to start this podcast, he's an amazing young man.
Yes. And by the way, I sometimes forget to tell everybody this, that Joey continues to give me explicit permission to share his story. And I just asked him the other day, because I was on this little radio show in New York, and I said, Joey, I'm going to talk about addiction. Is there anything you want me to talk about? And I want to double check again to make sure you're still fine with me sharing your story. And he goes, absolutely 100%, Mom. I really want to help other people. He is a gem, and he is helping a lot of other people, and so grateful for him. And hopefully he said he'd be willing to share on this next part of this episode. So
great.
We'll hear his voice and find out what happens. So is there anything else you'd like to share about the test or about the process? I guess maybe we should share how to get a hold of you. That would be good.
Yeah. So our website is Wired for Addiction, all spelled out, wiredforaddiction.com. You can go on there, see who we work with. We work with individuals that come straight to us directly. We work with individuals in therapeutic settings, be it with their therapist or counselor or a treatment center. They do this as part of what they're doing. And we work with people in the criminal justice space, even people who are incarcerated. So, and interestingly enough, judges love when they see this report, because they say it makes their job easier, because it's for the first time based on objective, hard data.
So the judge looks at this and they go, oh, they're not evil.
Right. Like they need help.
Yeah.
Let's get them the right help, because you've identified, instead of he said, she said, let's duke it out. It's like, this is data points. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, that's so amazing. And so far, insurance does not cover this test.
Correct. So far,
but hopefully maybe someday.
Yes. So we've had a very large insurer, who I won't say who they are, but a very large insurer, come to us proactively. So that is huge that they proactively came to us, and they want to do a pilot study because they know the efficacy will be there. And if they then start covering it, all the other insurance companies will jump on, so they don't lose you as the policy holder, to say, okay, right, let's cover this too. So that's really good to see what the future can be if they came to us.
Oh my gosh. If you think about it, they'll save a ton of money.
Oh my gosh. That's the whole point. It's like, guys, look, you are going to save so much money in the end, but everybody cares about their time as the boss,
Yes,
like not on my watch.
Yeah. But just imagine not having to just throw different medications at someone and say, see how this goes for a couple of months.
Right.
See how this one goes. Oh, I guess that wasn't right. Let's try this one. Think about all that time you'll save, and just heartache and just all that guesswork.
Right.
Oh,
quality
my
of
gosh.
life is night and day.
Oh,
and that's what this is all about. Your life is meant to be a gift that you get to play it out as a gift.
Let's maximize what we can out of it, right? And not just play games with it. It's just do it. So I'm very excited. I'm so glad I found you, and I'm glad to share you with all of our audience. And I hope everybody looks you up, wiredforaddiction.com. You're doing amazing work. Thank you. And this is, again, your brainchild. This is your creation, right?
Correct.
Amazing. You must be so excited to see all the results and all the lives you're changing.
Yeah, it really is, when you see the impact that it has in someone's life, like that case study that I talked about, the 6-year-old girl. Her life will change, and she's so young. How many people are affected by what the change was made in her? The domino theory of we all affect so many people. So if we're affecting them and changing them for the better because we've become that, that's how we really can make change.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you should get like a Nobel Prize or something for this. I think, I don't know what kind of prizes they have for changing the world, but this is pretty incredible. And I'm very grateful that we were able to swing it for Joey. And I just can't wait to see what happens.
Absolutely.
Now, the second part of this episode includes a recording from several weeks later after Joey has taken the samples urine, saliva, and cheek cells, sent them in, and the results came back in. And so Joey and I are in a consultation with Dr. Higgins, and she's explaining the results of his test. If you're listening anywhere other than YouTube, you might want to switch over to YouTube at this point because we included the video so you're able to see the charts that we're referring to in our discussion. The YouTube link is in the show notes. There are 4 different sections. First, she goes through the results of the neurotransmitters, and then she goes through the epigenetics part where she says which genes have been flipped on and which genes have not been flipped on. And then she goes through the protocol for the supplements and the dietary changes that he'll need to do in order to find healing. And then she goes through the pharmacogenic report, which tells you which medications are effective and which ones are cautionary and which ones are counterindicated for his DNA. So I hope this section helps you to really understand what this test can provide. And again, Joey gave his explicit permission to share this information with you all. I hope it's helpful.
Yeah. A lot of information. So get ready, Joey.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
All right.
So have you had the opportunity to look at this at all yet?
I looked at it and it was like overwhelming. So I was like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why
I looked at it. Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you're doing this with us together because, it was overwhelming to me too, but I was able to get through it. And I read most of it. I stopped reading when you had all the footnotes. There's a lot of footnotes, which I appreciate because that shows you have done your homework and are basing this on actual science and studies and stuff.
And that's the beauty of it. You know, it's objective and it's Joey, not everybody and Joey, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why we get the results that we do.
Yeah.
So let's start first with what you have up there. Those are the neurotransmitters.
Okay.
So each one of these has an optimal range,
mm-hmm.
and each one of these has a clinical correlation. So when it's too much or not enough, we see symptoms associated with that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that first one is serotonin. And if
mm-hmm.
you've heard of any of these, it's probably this one because there's so many
mm-hmm.
SSRI drugs that are targeted for serotonin.
Mm-hmm.
So just like having too much gives us a lot of the same symptoms when it comes to serotonin as not having enough.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, well, we have more, so isn't that good?
Yeah, you think, I would have thought having high serotonin would be a good thing, but no.
Right, exactly.
Too much of a good thing.
So when we see elevated serotonin, we can see symptoms of increased anxiety, agitation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So very similar to if we didn't have enough with this particular neurotransmitter.
And what about the medications he's taking? Because he is taking an SSRI. So would that make that serotonin too high?
So what it would do if his body isn't breaking it down properly is exactly that.
Okay.
Oh.
Right. So the dosing, the breaking down, the degrading of the serotonin. And as we go through it, we're going to find out more information as to why that's happening.
Okay. Good.
So the next one is dopamine, responsible for feelings of pleasure, satisfaction, even has to do with GI and muscle control. We'd want to see between a 190 and a 110. I'm sorry, a 110 and a 200, and Joey's at a 190. Okay. So we're on the higher end of normal, but still more than I'd want to see. Okay. And when we see upper range dopamine, it can be associated with repetitive behaviors, increased worry, distrust of others, an inability or a decreased ability to interact socially, and oftentimes with hyperactivity.
Do those resonate with you, Joe?
Yeah. I don't go out much and I don't have that many friends. So in that case, I'm less sociable. But when I'm out and I happen to talk to people, I'm great with people. That's where I...
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then the next one is norepinephrine. That's important for mental focus, for emotional stability, even for endocrine function. And we'd want to see between an 18 and a 42. And look at how low you are there.
Oh, wow.
0.7. So not even like low end, you are off the cliff.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm going to combine that with the epinephrine and then talk about both of those. So epinephrine, also known as adrenaline, also important for motivation, for energy, and for mental focus. And we want to see between a 1.3 and a 7.3, and you're just hanging on there at 1.5.
Mm-hmm.
So when we see low norepinephrine and low epinephrine, it can be associated with depression and mood changes, as well as fatigue, difficulty concentrating, or even a decreased ability to stay on task, both personal and professional. You want to do it, you're having a really hard time staying in that game.
Exactly.
Yeah, you have, that is exactly what he wants. He wants a job, and going through the steps to get it seem like mountains.
Exactly. And it doesn't, I don't understand why I know it should be easy. It's things I can do, but then I guess the chemicals in my brain just.
Exactly. When you see how low that norepinephrine is, that's somebody who's sitting there saying, this is what I want to do it. You get yourself up and you try making the steps, and it just never sees completion.
Yeah.
When I saw those numbers, when I saw this chart, I'm like, well, no wonder.
Right.
I'm kind of expecting him to go get a job. Well, how is that? How am I expecting that to happen with these numbers, and what these low numbers, particularly that one, help you are not helping.
Right.
Yeah, interesting.
So then that norepinephrine-epinephrine ratio, we'd want to see less than 13, and we're at a 4.5. So on the lower end, but within normal range, because both of those epinephrine, norepinephrine are low. Next one is glutamate. So we have two different types of neurotransmitters. We have excitatory and inhibitory. Excitatory kick in, if the bad guy's coming after us, we have to say, hey, let's get going. Let's get out of here. So all those excitatory brain chemicals say, hit it. But we can't go through our day, all day, as if that's what's happening. We have to have those breaks come on. So we have to have that balance, that dance between excitatory and inhibitory.
Wow, okay.
So glutamate is our primary excitatory neurotransmitter. That's necessary for learning and for memory. And we'd want to see between a 9 and a 40, and you're at a 10. So just
barely hanging on.
Wow.
When
I was looking at the wrong one.
Let me ask you this, Joey. In school, did you have problems retaining information?
I couldn't remember a single like spelling word.
Spelling was really, really tough.
Right. And you could say it, you could read it, but then when you had to recall it, total difficulty. Exactly. This is why.
Wow. That's if I knew this, it would be so much clearer.
I know, because I'm sure Joey just thought, well, I guess I'm not smart enough for this spelling.
Broken or something like that.
Yeah.
So what does that do to somebody's psyche when you think I'm just not enough?
It tears them down.
Right.
Definitely.
Right. And you kind of then start applying that and snowballing it through the rest of your life, like I'm not enough. And then that's not what's going on at all.
Yeah.
It's literally just chemicals that are imbalanced.
Exactly. That can improve.
Yeah,
right?
And it can.
That can improve. And you improve these things, and your life improves.
Yeah, it's
so
crazy.
Excited.
Life doesn't have to be as hard.
Going through this, I'm like, why hasn't any doctor done this test for us? So how come we've gone all this way with all these crises, and why hasn't anyone done this? And I know that's what you're trying to do, is to get this into the mainstream. But now I'm like, oh my God, this makes things so clear.
Yeah. And you look at the quality of someone's life totally changing. Then what happens when that individual's quality of life changes? Everybody around them, their quality of life.
It spreads.
Right.
Yeah, you affect everybody. Yes. Right. Oh, I'm totally on board. I'm totally on board with this thing.
All right. So next one is GABA immunobutyric acid, or GABA. And GABA is the primary inhibitory. So glutamate was the primary excitatory. GABA is the primary inhibitory.
Putting on the brakes.
necessary to feel calm and to feel relaxed. So we'd want to see between a 1.6 and a 3.5, and you're at 2.7. So within normal limits, just on the higher end there. You're kicking in to try to calm.
Okay.
Next one is glycine. So like GABA, glycine helps calm and relax the body. And we'd want to see between a 350 and a 1500, and you're at 320. So off the chart low.
Yeah.
And when we see low levels of glycine, it can contribute to REM sleep problems, sleep disorders in general, with poor cognitive function and memory. So on top of that glutamate with the concentration and memory part, now we've got the glycine adding another layer to that cognitive ability and that memory.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then the next one is histamine. Histamine is important for the sleep-wake cycle, plus energy and motivation. And we'd want to see between a 12 and a 30, and you're at 8.7 off the chart.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
So low histamine can affect digestion and appetite.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that's a thing for you.
I never have like an appetite, really.
Okay. And learning and memory and mood. So we've got that learning part, right? We're hearing that again and again. And the mood. And then next one is phenylethylalanine, or PEA. So PEA is important for focus, for concentration. We'd want to see between a 26 and a 70. Look at how low you are.
Yeah.
12. You're struggling. So low PEA can be associated with depression, attention deficits, even attention deficit with hyperactivity. We can see there too with the being count low.
So what was PEA? Like, what does it affect usually? Like
concentration and focus.
Concentration. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And then that creatinine is a measure of the urinary output to make sure our sample was concentrated enough. So it was a good, valid sample.
Okay.
So looking at this, it's no wonder that you've been struggling.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
Definitely. Yeah.
You know, and then that struggle for a lot of people turns into self-medicating to try to feel better. And you don't even know why you're doing it. Now we know why.
Yeah.
So because we know the why, factually, we can make changes. And we'll talk about that as we move on.
Okay.
But it's real for you. You know, that struggle is real. And
it's the physical proof and evidence.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm sure that's got to make you feel good, Joe, to see this.
And
Go ahead,
knowing
Joe.
that there's going to be a possible change. That can happen.
Correct.
Yes.
You know,
she's not just going to give you these numbers and say, okay, have fun.
Right, exactly. You know, we're going to admire your problem and say, well, here it is, and do nothing about
it. Is this a typical screening for a person that's addicted? Is this the numbers that you would typically see in someone, or is this way outside of the norm? Or
everybody's different, but when you get to that part of addiction, because it's been going on for so long, we see extremes like this.
Yeah. Okay.
And the good news, Joey, is that you have so many places to optimize. Had we gotten back a perfect lab, I'd say, Joey, I don't know how to help you.
Yeah, actually, that's good. There's some things to work on, because then she has some
good news.
Things to help.
Yeah. Good news.
Yeah.
Then the next part are the genetic single nucleotide polymorphisms. What does that mean? Polymorphism means that there's an error in the genetic coding.
Oh, wow.
Right. So we identify this, and then when we talk about what we're going to do, we're working on making changes to the expression. That's the study of epigenetics, which is probably the most fascinating part of what's going on in science today. You're born with your DNA, but we now know that can be upregulated or downregulated and change the expression of your DNA by your environment.
Whoa. That's actually really cool. So, like, your environment can... Yeah, this is your environment can change your biology.
Correct. So what's happening in your environment? Is there stress? Are you living a healthy lifestyle? Stress being from the people, from the people that you interact with, to just, let's say, not sleeping normally, 8-9 hours, sleeping 3, 4, 5 hours. That's going to affect your body. All of these things are going to affect your body. All of these lifestyle habits. That is what changes the expression of your genes.
Wow.
There's power in that.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So each of these rows is a separate gene.
Right. So if we see green, it means that there's no clinical abnormality. If we see yellow, that means that it's a heterozygous result, meaning one of that pair has been affected. If it's red, it's a homozygous result, meaning both in that pair have been affected.
And the pair of genes, is that from his mother and father? Or is that that's what the pair is? Okay.
Yeah,
so from one side of the family, you get, sometimes you get one thing. So when something's red, that means something's going on with that gene?
Yes. Okay. And yellow as well. The red is going to mean that both in the pair, so we might have more of a reaction because
even more.
All right, so that's C3. When we see a polymorphism here, we have more propensity towards asthma and inflammatory disorders. Has asthma ever been a thing for you, Joey?
Not asthma, but I can't breathe. Like my whole life, I couldn't breathe. It felt like
your whole life.
Okay. Like out of my nose.
Then that's CD14, a heterozygous result. So CD14 acts as the initiator of the innate immune response necessary for normal response to a pathogen. Some bad guy that enters, we have to have a response to that. You're going to have a greater response because of this. And that makes you more susceptible to allergens interrupting, which is kind of what you just said before we got to that one.
Wow.
Next one that we have in a polymorphism, the IL-4, interleukin-4, we have a homozygous result. So when we see a polymorphism here, it creates a more robust inflammatory response. So there should be some type of response, but for that interleukin-4, it's creating a hyper response to it.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot with inflammation in this first page.
Yeah, there's a lot with inflammation. So what does that do when we're talking about the neurotransmitters, the brain chemicals? Neuroinflammation, right? So neuroinflammation, things like anxiety, like depression, like cognitive impairment, all of that has to do with neuroinflammation. So that's where this inflammation is playing out in our lives, aside from the breathing difficulty and the allergen. We saw a lot of the allergen stimulus, but that body is always in the inflammatory state. It's going to wreak havoc in other places.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I didn't ever think about it with our brain chemicals. That's interesting.
Yep. Then the next category is under something called autophagy. And autophagy is kind of like the garbage men of our cells. Things die off in our body. Things die off in our cells. We have to be able to get rid of them, or else all that junk collects. Okay. So that first one, ATG5, autophagy-related 5 protein. This is kind of the quality control inside of the cell.
Wow. It just seems like there's so much yellow and red. Is that, I mean, like, how unusual is that? Or is
there's a lot of genetic SNPs here that we have errors with. But again, the good news is that we've identified them and we know how to express those genes differently.
So if he, has a really clean diet, gets good sleep, reduces or eliminates substances, then those genes won't get turned on.
Correct.
So it's like he knows what could go wrong if he doesn't take good care of himself. Right? Okay.
Yep.
Here's some green ones. Yay.
Yay. We got some green ones. Yeah. This is looking at what do we have a predisposition for and what's happening and how do we get to change that?
Yeah.
That's so empowering.
Yeah.
Right?
Are you feeling empowered, Joy, or are you feeling overwhelmed?
No, I'm just interested. I'm just like this,
and realize, Joey,
blown away.
Realize nobody would have perfect DNA without any.
Nobody comes all green, right? Everybody's got some.
I'm not disappointed or anything.
Within our lineage, but some people say, well, hey, we've got a lot of cancers. We've got a lot of heart disease. We've got a lot of this or that. So we identify instead of guess and play Russian roulette with what's going to happen with our life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, then you can make choices based on that information.
So this is under immune response from inflammatory markers from the environment. So how does our environment affect our inflammatory markers? So that first one, HLA-DQ82, we have a homozygous result. So this has to do with histocompatibility, meaning the inside, the outside of the cells are all working as they should. We can see a greater propensity towards autoimmune in the area of like Crohn's or celiac or gluten sensitivity. I don't know if you've ever tried to eat less gluten, Joey. Have you?
No.
You should try it even just as an experiment, because you're going to feel a lot better with something as simple as a move as that.
Wow,
and
really?
There's so many gluten-free foods now. I mean, anything that's a real food, I call it, like a fruit or a vegetable, that's not going to have gluten. The processed foods are where we have the gluten, but there's so many, because so many people are eating gluten-free, that there's a lot of choices.
It's gotten so much better
within the gluten world, the gluten-free world.
Rather than that hard bread.
Yeah, it used to be really bad bread. It's getting better.
It's getting
better. Joey, if you notice, if you eat a lot of junk food and breads and cakes and cookies and stuff,
I get lethargic.
Do you?
Exactly. Yeah. Now let's think about that example that Mom just said, right? So you feel lethargic. Let's think back to the autophagy, the detoxification. If we're not getting rid of garbage and we're putting a lot of garbage in, is it going to pile up in us?
Yeah. It's gonna
and then you feel logy and heavy and no wonder.
That makes sense. So, but if I ate like a gluten-free vegan meal or something like that, it would do quite the opposite, make you feel up and energized.
Correct. And that's going to help the neurotransmitters. It's going to affect that. Wow. You're going to feel different in a really good way and say, wow, I can't believe there's that much of a difference by the choice of food that I put in my body.
Wow.
Yeah, it seems so simple.
Yeah. It's the do it part.
Yeah, right? That's tough, but I'll help you, Joe, if you want. I'll help you.
Yeah.
Cool. So the HLA-DRB1 heterozygous result, human leukocyte, a mutation here creates a higher risk for an autoimmune or a chronic inflammation. So we have a lot of inflammatory markers. If we don't make changes to those, that can become a chronic situation.
Yeah. Okay.
And we looked at that marker for RA, for rheumatoid arthritis. A chronic situation can develop out of something that we really could make changes to.
Yeah. And luckily you're only 19. So
you got
a lot of people get RA and stuff like that, my age, and then it's kind of too late sometimes, maybe. Not too late, but harder.
With the S7, the mitochondria's respiratory chain is affected, creating a weakened energy production in the mitochondria. Do you have to kind of push yourself to get going, Joey, to exercise?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This is why it's real for you. It's not just like, I don't feel like you have a hard time getting there.
Yeah, he feels like he's made of lead sometimes. Like, hey, what you been doing? Nothing. And it's not because he's not wanting to. He just literally can't get up off the bed.
That's exactly it. Not because you're not wanting to. You should, you want to. It's really difficult to make happen.
Yeah.
So changes here, that alone, when you have energy, make life a lot different. So MAOA, monoamine oxidase A, this is a classic neurotransmitter of what we call degradation enzyme, or breaking down serotonin, dopamine, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. We have a mutation here. We have less breakdown of those neurotransmitters, which can lead to things like mood disorders or increased aggression or even addiction.
Okay.
Do you ever feel like aggression is a thing for you, Joey?
Yeah.
Okay. This is why. and then MAOB, monoamine oxidase B. So its job is to break down or catalyze, bring together dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, plays a role in stability of mood in the central nervous system. And a polymorphism here leaves us at a higher risk for clinical depression and mood disorders.
Okay, so this is making sense.
Yep.
Why those numbers were so low and
Yep.
high.
Yep, all the pieces come together. So a lot of information almost can be overwhelming with how much information is there. But what I want you to get out of it, Joey, is, wow, this is reasons for why either I feel the way I do or behave the way I do starts to make sense. And now we talk about, okay, that's great. What are we going to do about it?
Exactly. It gives me the, it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like opening Pandora's box to things that I can now fix.
Boom. Love it.
Nice.
Yep. Love it. Couldn't have said it better. So we do this in phases, 4 phases. So
okay.
Phase 1, we're not balancing all of the neuroendocrine immunological system. We now know that those aren't just separate systems. They all act together. And we are just looking at providing support to serotonin, GABA in the beginning. We're bringing things down. We're calming things down.
Okay. And these are all personalized, right?
Correct. This is all based on your labs that we just went over.
Cool. Awesome.
And then in phase 2, now we're looking at supporting all of those neurotransmitters. So we promote energy, we elevate the mood, we improve the concentration and the focus. And then in phase 3, we introduce support for those SNPs we just went over, those genetic single nucleotide polymorphisms. We add that layer of it, of supporting that.
Got it.
And then in the 4th layer, any medications necessary are brought in there. And they're brought in last because when we are supporting specific parts of these biochemical pathways to the dosage that we need, the body most often says, I needed exactly this. You're giving me exactly what I need to make these pathways now work the way they're supposed to.
Like by the time you get through phase 4, you might not need medication because all these other things have gotten your body kicked into gear.
Right. So we're giving you all the biosynthesis precursors to make everything in those biopathways work.
Yeah.
Nice.
So the first thing we're going to do is take something called Adricor, which works on dopamine, epinephrine, histamine, and norepinephrine.
All of
those
things.
need support, right? So yeah, that's why you have a very different protocol than other people, because we're jumping right into all of those 4 needed support.
Okay.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And then, so you're going to do well. You're going to do well.
Okay.
And then the Focus DL works on that phenylethylalanine pathway, which gives us that focus and that concentration. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, your brain's gonna start kicking into gear. I'm gonna.
You're gonna feel different.
Yeah.
Now, you're gonna retire of the cognitive.
I kind of act as his executive function sometimes, but I can give that back to you. I'd be happy to do that. He outsources his executive functions.
Yeah. You guys have a good relationship. That's funny. That's a ton of information. But what I want you to get out of it all is, wow, there are places for optimization. We've identified where. We know how to do that. And knowing that we can actually make changes to the expression of our DNA is huge. It's
incredible.
Yeah. So what this does, Joey, is goes over your particular DNA and what medications are safe, what are cautionary, or what are really dangerous for your DNA and the way it metabolizes that particular drug.
SSRIs, here they are. Escitalopram. Is that Lexapro?
Yep.
Okay, so Lexapro is yellow.
Right.
And that means it might not be effective?
So cautionary, but if you're getting good results with it, this is where a psychiatrist is like, okay, we're getting results, what we had before, that kind of thing. It's when we get to ones that are change recommended that we really You need to take that seriously.
Now this list, because I noticed there's things like for cardiac stuff that he's never needed, but like I should hang on to this list for when he ever has some sort of
100%. This should,
because this won't change, right?
Right, correct. This should be with you for life. So, something happens, some event happens. You're like, okay, we need to know this before we have an adverse reaction, right?
Yes. So yeah, don't give him this, whatever that is. And
so that's the power in all this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. All right. My head's a little spinning.
Yeah.
How's yours, Joe?
Joey's taking a break. It can be overwhelming.
Yeah, and that was more schoolish kind of work that he's had for like 5 years. So,
right.
But this type of stuff with the cells and like the nuclei and all the I love the membranes and stuff. I love that type of stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
That was my strong suit in school was science and math.
Okay.
I can see you going really into this, Joe. Here's a question for you, Doctor.
Sure.
Your company is called Wired for Addiction.
Right.
And I think I know the answer to this, but none of this is like expressly addressing addiction. Like there wasn't a gene that turned on for addiction that I saw. So how does all of this affect addiction?
So it's all of it together. We had the MAOA, we had the MAOB, we had the COMT, we had the GAD. Now we look at the fact that the autophagy isn't working correct. We look at that we have so many inflammatory markers. We look at that we're not detoxifying correctly and that our mitochondria isn't producing enough energy. It's everything synergistically together, how that's going to affect your body. It's going to make you say, I've got to do something else because this isn't feeling right.
Yeah.
Of everything that's happening.
So when they say there's not an addiction gene, that's what they're saying. There's not like one little gene that says
this is alcohol. This is, it doesn't work like that. But I mean, you heard what I was saying with those clinical correlations.
Yeah.
That word came up, and So
this genetic propensity, when you have several of those different markers acting together,
correct.
It's like a perfect storm waiting for some substance to come and go. Yep,
that's the one.
That'll do.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, Joey had that happen with cannabis. He's like, yes.
Well, actually, cannabis and
psychedelics.
Psychedelics,
Yeah, so it's understandable.
Right.
It's understandable.
Right.
It sucks that the substances are so easily accessible.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So when someone's rife for it, that it's just right there for them. Joey, do you have any questions?
Nope.
All right, lots to think about.
I'm just lots to think about. I'm still processing everything.
Sure.
I want to look back at the actual physical copies of the results.
Yep.
And then I want to just do that, but like after my brain kind of cools down after what just happened.
It's a lot to take in, but I'm really impressed, Joey, with how much you put together of how all this works and the changes that can be made by you.
Oh yeah, that I'm so happy that there is a possibility for change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, she's giving you the tools. It's really great.
And Joey, I'm really impressed. You got a great future ahead of you. You understood some heavy duty science here.
Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you so
pleasure.
much for doing the hard work of science, helping people too. It's really. I really thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
It's been 7 weeks since Joey started taking the supplements that Dr. Higgins suggested. And we wanted to check back in and let you all know how Joe is doing. So, hey, Joe, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing quite well, actually. From the time of hearing about what's going on in my DNA or whatever, it was a lot. And I was not really understanding what was going to happen. I was kind of just numbers and weird names kind of thrown at me. Mm-hmm. But then as soon as I got the physical pill, after about 3.5 weeks, I felt really different, but in a good way. And on the 7th week, which is now, I feel I'm doing a lot more productive things than I was doing. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, and so the protocol was about 6 or 8 medications,
Yeah.
including a cream and a bunch of pills, and you take them at different times of day. It's like this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
We had to get a 4-level pill sorter thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the first 2 weeks you took a certain combination, and then you added a whole bunch more the third week. And it was in that
Yeah.
third week that we really started noticing some changes. Like,
Yes.
woo, what kind of things changed for you?
More energy, also more, I guess more focus. It was like energy and focus work together in this sense when I was taking it, because energy, I was actually doing something, and then my focus was keeping me on that something.
Yeah, I've noticed that. So you always have ideas.
Mm-hmm.
You always have ideas, but a lot of times in the past, you would have an idea and that would be it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's gone. But now you're having ideas, you're taking proactive steps, and you're following through and like doing the things. So
Yeah.
those are huge differences.
Yeah.
What kinds of things have you done in the last couple weeks that you hadn't done before for a while?
Oh, I have been doing a lot of DMV work, getting ready for my permit test, my written test, and I've
Driver's
also,
license.
yes, and then also just today actually, we came up with a great idea of starting a YouTube channel that is progressive and really brings in the idea of recovery into it.
Yeah. So you've thought about this kind of idea before,
Mm-hmm.
and it just stays there as an idea. But today,
And then never goes anywhere.
you called me before I even got home again,
Mm-hmm.
and were impatient for me to get home because you wanted to work on it on Zoom with me. And
Yeah.
now you created an outline. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what? An outline. So an outline and ideas of
Mm-hmm.
who your audience is going to be. And
I'm writing things down more. That's what I see too.
I think that the supplements that were included in the protocol that directly address your own genetic propensity,
It,
it's just been like amazing.
and I'm assuming nothing to do with like the big pharma. So I'm really happy with that, and I really am surprised that like, I always thought like either hard drugs or prescription drugs are going to be able to work, but I never
Yeah,
thought
so
like a supplement would work.
these are all supplements, and they're things that have natural things in them.
Yeah.
I don't even know what most of them are, but there's like gobs and gobs of paperwork that tells us what they are and all the scientific facts about them. But
Mm-hmm.
it's from a reputable company, but it is not prescription.
Yeah.
So I had no idea either. I had no idea that this combination of things could make it so much easier for you to be proactive in your own life.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell everybody that we went over to OCC the other day?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, we went to OCC. Well, me and my mom went to OCC for me to see if I can apply and then see if I could get an IEP. And now it's just the thing of being stuck on the sign-in part. So.
Oh yeah. So OCC is Orange Coast College. It's a community college really close to Joy's house. And you talked about wanting to go to OCC for a long time, but this time you mentioned it, and I said, "Well, we have time. You want to go over there?" And I fully expected you to say, "Oh, we'll go another day.
Yeah.
We'll do it later." And you said, "No, let's go. Let's go." I'm like, "Okay, do not push the brakes on this one. Let's just go." And then after we stopped first in the disability office to find out about getting an IEP, and for your ADHD, that will help you, I think. And then she said you have to go to this other building for this other thing regarding your enrollment. And I thought you'd say, "Okay, we'll do that another day. This is enough."
Yeah.
You didn't. You said, "Okay, let's go. Where is that building? Let's go find it. Let's go take care of it." And you did. And then now we're stuck on getting you a sign in, but we'll get that taken care of. That's no problem.
Yeah.
So it's hard to explain to the audience how big of a thing this is.
Yeah, it seems very like if you say it out loud, it's going to mundane. But like for me in the past, it was such a task to even get out of bed or have the motivation to even think about going to college. So now it's like I want to do these things. I have more energy that gives me more capacity to want to do things.
Yes. You're able to literally get out of bed and follow through, pick up a pencil and write stuff down or whatever. Tell me, if you continue on this trajectory, where do you see yourself?
I genuinely don't know, but like I have a feeling it's going to be in a good direction compared to what I was at least doing.
Mm-hmm. So you don't know like exactly where, like literally where, but like you see yourself being productive or
Yes, I mean,
people.
I obviously don't want to stay here where I'm at, but if it's like that and I'm still here but I'm happy, that's all I really care about.
And are you feeling happier?
More stable.
Yeah. You're not like, whee, it's like a carnival ride. Not that kind of happy yet, but more, more stable, less big ups and downs, less big swings.
I think this last week has been the best representation of that because I haven't really gotten upset too bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that had been a problem the last
just
couple of months.
2 weeks ago. It's 2 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, some big anger outbursts and stuff like that. And so for the whole week, you haven't gotten in any fights with anybody?
Nope.
That's pretty amazing. That's really good.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed the family time that I get to have, and that's really awesome. And also, I guess it's the communication with my dad has been a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about that.
We have negotiations, not like negotiations, but like that's how I have to talk to my dad. It's like, okay, this is what we got to do, or else this is going to happen.
Okay.
And this time I'm not just one-sided. I'm asking, hey, Dad, what do you think is going to be okay? What do you like? Do you think? Like, I'm asking him before I say I want this, I want that, and kind of manipulating it.
That's very good because it is still his house after all.
Yeah.
And all that. So you're going to be more practical about it and more thinking it through about how, because you're still kind of trying to get what you want, but in a more respectful way or more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm able to do things and work and stuff. It's just opportunities really haven't just landed.
Yeah. Are you talking about getting a job, you mean?
Yeah, jobs and stuff. I mean, I could try a little harder, but that's what I got to do. The supplements are giving me this path that I didn't know was open.
Yeah. So now, whenever you feel ready, you can start tackling that, trying to get a job.
I'm not as afraid of it or like stressed about it as I was.
Yeah. Because with your brain working the way it is, I can totally see you being able to hold a job now.
Yeah, definitely.
And hang on to it. You'll be able to think better. And with your new motivation and your new get up and go, I'm sure you'll be able to fill up your days with things that really matter to you. Your brain is totally coming back on board. I couldn't be happier. It's like you're coming back to life. And I'm just so grateful that you're willing to do this because it's a lot of pills to take. I understand.
It took, now that I've like kind of think about it, it took a lot of time to get to this point. Yeah. It took 4 to 5 years to get to this point. I wouldn't have done it 2 years ago. I wouldn't have done it a year ago even.
You would not have?
I would not have. I would be too much like, I don't want to give up my drugs. I don't trust that or something like that. I just would deny it. Yeah. And now I'm just accepting the things, not that are given to me, but that are coming through my like view. Is that like, I'm not drugged out or anything. I'm actually like present in mind.
So it hit you at the right time.
Yes.
If I would have asked you even just a year ago, you'd be like, nope, not ready.
Yep.
I never really had to convince you about this. I told you about it, and I think you listened to Dr. Higgins on a TED Talk or something. Maybe did you watch that?
No, I didn't. You just told me, and I was like, "Oh, it's interesting." Yeah, it's interesting.
I'm a good salesperson. So yeah, so you were always ready for it and on board, and then we found out, okay, it involves taking a whole bunch of pills. Are you fine with that? And you're like, okay, it helps. It's fine. So I guess there could be way worse things than just taking some pills, but But I am just so happy, and it just seems like every day you're more stable, you're making better choices, and then all of those little daily choices are going to add up to a life. Yeah, a really great life that you'll be able to fulfill everything you need to do for yourself and help others, which is what you're doing right now.
Yeah, and I'm so thankful for everyone who's helped out throughout the way.
Yeah. Do you want to say, what do you want to say to the audience that's been kind of hanging in there with us?
To everyone in the audience, to those who've been in my life that haven't, thank you so much for just the support from just watching this or listening to this. And I really want to say thank you to Dr. Higgins too. My life wouldn't be nearly as good without her, you know?
Yeah. You might have gotten to this place, but it would have taken you a lot longer.
Yeah.
And this enables you to, now you can dig into spiritual reading or
Yep.
therapy. You'll be more accessible. You'll be able to access those things because your mind is so much clearer.
Yes.
So it's enabling you, it's bringing you up to a starting place,
Yeah, baseline, yeah.
Baseline, that's right. It's getting you to baseline so you can now, go after whatever you want to go after, school or personal growth kind of stuff, or you mentioned want to go to the gym or whatever.
Yeah.
Now your brain is in a place where you can do all of those things.
Yep.
So, you're so grateful and so proud of you. And I know how hard you've been working and, trying all these different things and being open to trying things. And I'm just super grateful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for being along with us on this journey. I hope this episode helped you to understand what this Wired for Addiction, or now it's called Wired BioHealth. Since our first episode, now they changed their name. So check it out. I mean, goodness. I hope it helps a lot of people. So, information about Wired for Addiction or Wired BioHealth is below, but it's easy to find on the internet, wiredbiohealth.com, or wiredforaddiction.com also still works. And while you're on the internet, go ahead and find Unraveling Adoption at unravelingadoption.com. We'd love to have you check out our Patreon page, our coaching page, our events page, and also all of our episodes are on our website, unravelingadoption.com. Thank you so much for your support. So Dr. Higgins, Joey, and I want you all to stay safe.